Bonjour, bienvenue au French Tech Podcast. Welcome to the French Tech Podcast. We're filming here at the DeepSec Summit organized by SG Innovate at the wonderful Singapore FinTech Festival. Very happy to welcome Robbie Schingler from Planet Labs. Welcome, Robbie.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Could I ask you to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm a physicist by background, and
right.
I think that's one of the reasons why we just were on stage with Steve talking about deep technology and what that actually means to society. So I grew up at NASA. I've been doing stuff in aerospace for all of my career. I was at NASA for about 10 years and left about 8 years ago with two of my best friends to start this company called Planet. And so Planet is a purpose-driven company to image the entire world every day and make that data available to our users and customers. And that's our mission statement is to allow for us to see global change, make that visible, accessible, and actionable. Over the last 8 years, it's been quite a journey. It's still a long way to go in order to achieve that mission of making global change actionable, but really activating this data, making it available to many facets of society is one small piece in allowing for us to live more resiliently as a species on this planet.
That's so interesting. Live more resiliently as a species. So on your website, I read that you really try to image the entire Earth and make all of those changes that are happening every day visible and actionable.
Yes.
Now I imagine the applications that might be built on top of the data, a giant amount of data, cover many verticals. Mm-hmm. Is there any particular kind of application, or do you have an example of an application building your data that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, so well, there are many. One in particular that I really do like is a project that just got announced a couple of months ago with the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, sponsored by NICFI as part of Norway's commitment toward the RED program. I don't know if you're familiar with the RED program,
not at all.
REDD. This is a UN program that is attempting to value the Earth's standing forests.
Oh, wow.
And this is a major challenge that we have in our global economic system, where we know that we as humans value clean water, clean air, but yet it's not in the global economic system. And so this is part of the performance-based carbon economy, which was really big about 15 years ago and about 10 years ago and really tapered off. And the reason why it tapered off is because there wasn't really an oracle of a data set. There wasn't a common operating picture for everybody to actually take a look at. This is a measuring, reporting, and verification system that works in Gabon as well as in Costa Rica. Every single country had their own. So with this pilot project that we're doing with the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, as well as the FCPF as part of the World Bank, so the performance-based carbon payments. We're starting with 8 countries, and it looks really, really good. And in fact, this was one of the original designs of our satellite system was get down to 3 meters per pixel so you can count every tree on the planet.
3 meters per pixel.
That's correct. So it's very coarse.
Wow.
So you can't see people, but you can see the entire world at that spatial resolution. But importantly, you see that every day. And you play a movie over time, and you can see the pattern of seasons. That clearly happens every 3-4 months in some areas around the world. But then, what changes every week or what changes every day? And different things change at different rates. And one of the things that I get constantly surprised by, mining through all the data that we collect, is how dynamic our ecosystem is and the planet is, and also how much we are affecting that as humans with respect to our cities that are growing and the fires that are occurring and the ecosystem collapse in some areas that are happening on the world all over the place.
Well, unfortunately, we live both in an age where it's urgent to treat these matters, also in an age of increasing skepticism in certain parts of the world when it comes to these...
You mean in this post-truth world? Is that what you mean by skepticism?
In this post-truth era. And how do you feel you as a company impact that mindset?
We need to keep the plot. I mean, I do think that that we can easily go low and keep going low like that, then we question everything. And then we end up questioning the institutions of democratic nations around the world.
Right.
And at exactly the point in time when we actually need to strengthen some of those things, in my opinion. So if you actually think about being able to take a picture of the entire planet undiscriminately, right? and then allowing for that to be a common operating picture for everybody to have access to. It de-escalates conflict. And then reasonable people can argue about the interpretation around what it is that they're seeing. So it's critically important, I think, for the planet to have a number of these pieces of data and of institutions that you trust. You trust the veracity of them, that they abide by the rule of law, and that they abide by the values of the organization that is part of. So. There's an element of a global good that I think over the next 5 years or so will pop out of some of the activities that we're doing at Planet. And for us, we want to be around for multiple decades, and so it's a matter of building a really good business model that's aligned around our theory of change, which is, again, to make global change visible, accessible, and actionable.
Well, it all starts with that awareness, as you say, right, of the changes that are occurring, and that's definitely the first step to action. To bring it back to the positive influence that you like to have on this world, right? When I looked at your website, there was a strong focus on business ethics, partnerships, applications. Could you explain why that's so important to you as a company?
Well, I think it should be important for any deep tech company, especially if you are kind of new to a market, which is what Planet is. We are market making.
Right, exactly.
Once in the purview only for governments. How do you look around the corner? How do you think about how people can game your technology or your tool for their own personal gain that then has negative externalities to the rest of society? So. It's very important. And then also from a public perception standpoint, we all watch some Hollywood movies.
Of course. Yeah.
And when you see satellites zooming in and seeing the color of my eye, that does not exist to my knowledge. But that definitely does not exist at Planet. And so there's a perception that it is that it is invasive in our personal privacy. And to us, really the personal privacy stuff is more around our user data and around who they are and what they're doing. And that is critically important for us to make sure that people know that we take that super seriously, and that people can trust the veracity of the data that we provide, and that any data that we collect from them, if they classify their own algorithms and so on and so forth, that's theirs. They own that data. And that's looking around the corner a little bit, right? I don't know if you're following all of the stuff that's happening with data unions and being able to actually allow for an individual to own their data, then to license access to their data to different types of companies, and so they have control over that. Absolutely, that is a good next step forward. We're already baking that into our overall tech architecture for when it gets to that point. But any deep tech company needs to be thinking about the effects of their product on society and to look around the corner. I think one thing that I would suggest for entrepreneurs to do is to really identify their business model to be wrapped around their theory of change. And so the better they do in the market, the more that future becomes a reality. If you have a business model that's different from your reason for being, then over time you might become extremely successful and completely orthogonal to why you made that promise to your employees and to your users. And so it's better to avoid that. Just get creative, commercialize on top of your theory of change.
That's fantastic. I could talk to you about this for hours and hours. We're at La French Tech very involved in Tech for Good projects as well. Out of Europe, we're having enormously important discussions about how data is used, the ethical applications and implications of both big data science and AI. So thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today. Really appreciate it. And I hope you're having a good time here at the Deep Tech Summit.
I'm definitely having a good time, absolutely. It's great to meet you as well. I did spend some time in France about 20 years ago. I did a master's degree in Strasbourg at the International Space University. So for some of your community, take a look at that if you guys are interested in the frontier of space and how you can create purpose-driven companies. It's a really great university to be involved with.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Cheers.